Hey guys, Nate here with the Volunteer Tech Vlog. This will be a live sound report, take 2, for March 1st, 2015. I tried to record the live sound report yesterday, but my batteries died while I was in the middle of it. So this is take 2, and I'll talk about all the issues that came up, or the different, I shouldn't say issues necessarily, because not all of them are issues. Some of them are trouble reports or issues, but for the most part it's just me explaining what to expect, what to deal with, in the hopes that a young sound person out there in YouTube world will see this video and can possibly learn something from it and be more prepared for whatever is being thrown at them, because you get thrown curveballs every once in a while, and you have to really, I think the mark of a really good sound person or video person or tech person in general, so this kind of intangible skill set of just being able to think on your feet and solve problems, that's something that we should all strive to be better at. So anyway, if this is helpful for me to document everything. But anyway, on the agenda today is subwoofer feedback, EQing a keyboard, split track versus stereo playback, post fader versus pre-fader, and Tascam record error. First time that ever happened. So let's start with feedback, subwoofer feedback specifically. So what happened? Okay, so this was at the 8 a.m. service, the first service, and the pastor's mic was a Countryman over-the-ear style mic that kind of has skin tone, so it just kind of blends in. And great microphone, by the way. If you get your hands on one of these things, I definitely recommend them. That said, you need to know how your microphone interacts with the system, and this is something that I just kind of had a brain fart and forgot to EQ the microphone. And to be honest, it's something that we should include in our standard setup. So every time we fire up the software audio console, this channel that we typically use for the pastor's mic should just be dialed in with the proper EQ settings. Basically, what I forgot to do was apply a low cut filter, and anything under, I don't know, maybe 80 hertz or 100 hertz, I forget exactly where it is, we just kind of cut right out of that, and that makes all our problems go away. I forgot to do that. So the pastor was doing the call to worship. He was walking down the center of the aisle, and he didn't do anything wrong, but as he's talking, all of a sudden you hear this, like, you know, not that quite loud. It started like, it was a slow crescendo. It was slowly building up. It was kind of like a, and I caught it quickly, luckily. So it only happened for about half a second, or maybe about, okay, maybe more than half a second, maybe 2 seconds before I was able to just quickly kill it and apply the EQ and just be, move right along. But it's one of those things that should never happen. It's one of my big pet peeves. I mean, feedback of any type. I mean, this wasn't like the ear-killing ringing, but it's still a form of feedback, and it shouldn't happen. So I'm kind of embarrassed to admit it, but hey, that's what happened. That's why it happened. To avoid making that happen in the future, dial up that microphone and just apply a low-cut filter just to cut out low frequencies, let's say below 100 hertz, and you're not going to have that problem. And there's not really a whole lot going on in the human voice down at that range anyway, but at least for speaking. Maybe if you're beatboxing or something like that, different story. This is, for a pastor who's preaching a sermon. So anyway, that was the subwoofer feedback and how to handle it, and an example of how I did not handle it. The next thing was keyboard EQ. So this was fun. So actually, my dad was part of this band. So there's Dan and Chris and Jerry were up there, and Eric, who's also singing up there. And Jerry's playing keyboard, and he's doing some great melodies and chords in the upper register. And down in the lower register, he was playing bass lines. And I like to have the keyboard. So the ensemble consisted of 3 vocal microphones, and 2 guitars and 1 keyboard, right? So the keyboard was kind of filling in for, you know, a bass players that they didn't have one. So he was playing bass lines. And what I found was the bass coming out of that keyboard was a lot louder than the upper register stuff. I don't know if there was a certain setting that was dialed in so that like half the keys were one sound and half the keys were another sound. That's actually, now that I think about it, that's most definitely the case. That's exactly what was happening. There was, you know, some sort of electric bass dialed into the bottom, and the levels on those were kind of all over the place. So the challenge was, I'd get the keyboard sounding nice. You know, it'd be in the mix where I thought it should be in the mix compared to the vocals and the guitar. And then a bass line would come along, and the bass line would just kind of like knock. It would be a little bit too much, you know, be a little bit too overpowering. And so I ended up having to apply, again, some crazy EQ there. So I really cut a lot of the bass out of it. And then I think we were okay. But it was just one of those things that I didn't catch until you know, the first song was going on, and Pete came up and he noticed that the bass was just like something. He noticed something was off, and I think it might have been the sustain pedal too. So I think the sustain pedal of the keyboard might have been affecting the bass and doing some funny things. But anyway, one of those things where you do a quick rehearsal Sunday morning and you're off to the races, and you gotta try to figure this stuff out as the show is unfolding. It's just kind of, again, one of those things where you gotta think on your feet and really be dialed in and listening to what's going on. Okay, the next thing is the split track. So, I think I mentioned about a split track in the Live Sound 101 video series, but do you guys use split tracks? Are split tracks like a thing that other people use, or is it just me? I don't know. I don't have a ton of experience doing sound at other churches. I've been at this particular church for a long time, and I imagine the church scene is the big place where you'd use these types of CDs. So anyway, what is a split track? Split track has the instrumental panned one way to the left. Let's just say to the left. I think that's what it was. The split track we used on Sunday, and then the backup vocals panned to the right, so that you can, as a singer, you can kind of be up there doing the solo gig, but you can also balance out your voice with some background vocals by putting up, you know, that channel a certain amount. You know, most people just put it in a little bit, just kind of as like a filler or something, or maybe if they forget the words, or I'm not exactly sure. Whenever I've done a split track, I think for the most part we just completely take the vocals out of there and use the instrumental. But I think that's the point, is that you can be up there singing and it sounds like you're singing along with the chorus or some backup singers. But for the most part, we just take those out of there. So it's just the left channel that's being played back over the CD. And I can hear the church bells. I'm late to work. So that's the deal with split track. I guess they can be pretty handy. Next on the list, we've got post fader versus pre fader. This is a good one. Hey, who's beeping at me? It's right on red. I gotta wait until it's safe first. Okay, anyway. Plus, I'm recording a vlog. Duh. Now, some people are impatient there. Anyway, where was I? Post fader versus pre fader. Okay, so what are we talking about here? So pre-fader. When we say pre-fader, it's important to talk about what we're describing. So in a mixing console, you've got your main channel faders, right? And then you could have your aux channel faders, or aux, potentiometers. Or you could have like, I'm trying to think in the analog world and the digital world at the same time here, and that's going to be kind of tricky. So let me just point out the digital world that we live in. So we're using software audio console, and we've got basically 25 virtual mixes if we wanted to, and it's not like they're fully functional with their own sets of EQ and processing and everything, completely independent of one another, based on the same channels coming in. So it adds a lot of flexibility. And so one of the things you can do is we've got our front of house mix, our main mix, and then we've also got a fellowship hall mix, which is like an overflow seating area for, you know, when we have large attendance, people sit over there. We open up some what we call garage doors, and people can look in. And actually, in some previous videos, I think I did a little walkthrough and actually pointed out these garage doors if you want to see what they actually look like. Just scan back through the videos there about Hollywood Game Night. And audio tie lines, and you'll see some what I'm talking about there. So we've got this overflow seating area. Now, what you can do is you can set, for example, the CD player. Let's do stereo playback, right? So I got a CD. I'm putting it in there. I'm putting it in my CD player. It's coming into channels, 23 and 24 on the main mixer, and I put the channel up. I put those channels up in the house, and I hear the CD playing through through the main mix there at the front of the house. What you can then do is have those same two channels in the fellowship hall mix or the overflow mix be either dependent upon the main mix or independent of the main mix, right? So when would you maybe want to do this? So if I want to set just background music for postlude or prelude, like when people are filing in and they're listening to, they're chatting with people and they're finding a seat. I might have some music on softly in the background. Maybe I want all my other downstream mixes, like the fellowship hall mix, broadcast mix, in-ear monitor mix, different monitor mixes. There's all types of mixes. You want them all to be affected from the main one, right? You don't want to have to set levels for background music across all these different mixes. So you could set all the other ones to be dependent upon the main mix. So if I want all the other mixes to be dependent on the main mix, I would set all those channels to post fader, right? Because I want them to be affected by the main mix, and they're all downstream or post after. They all occur after that mix. Hope I'm explaining that well. So let me explain the opposite way, just to make sure this is jiving here. Let's say I want them to all be independent. Let's say I want to have a different level of background music in the overflow. I want to send maybe no background music to the broadcast mix because I don't want to be broadcasting, copy protected material or, whatever the reason is. I could set all those other mixes to pre-fader. And so that would mean they get their signal before the main mix faders, before the main mix faders. So whatever I do in the main mix does not affect the downstream mixes, does not affect the overflow mixes. So anyway, hopefully that makes sense to you guys. I know it's a little tricky to wrap your brain around, especially the first time you do it if you're a newbie, but that's the difference between post and pre-fader. And now, when I use the split track, I needed to set all those downstream mixes. So our default is post-fade, because typically we just do background music, and when I put it up one place, I want it to go up everywhere else. But, of course, we had a split track. So for the split track, I needed to go in and set those others to, well, I felt I needed to, because I was, I wanted to get the monitor mix sounding right during rehearsal and not have to think about it, during the live performance. And I wanted to get sounding good in fellowship hall, and I didn't want it to be affected. I guess I could have gone around and done it post-fader too. Theoretically it's possible, but then everything is dependent on the main mix, and then if I decided I wanted the main mix down a little bit, it would affect everything else. So, I chose, for me, in my mind, it was more simple, more intuitive to make everything pre-fader that morning, but not necessarily intuitive to think about pre-fader and post-fader in that way. So that's that. Probably spend enough time talking about that for one day. The next thing is the Tascam record error. So this has never happened before, to my knowledge. We've got a Tascam, what is it, a CDR W901 SL Tascam real-time CD recorder, which is awesome. It's been great. The reason why I like it is because it's a standalone, purpose-built device, right? So if a computer, all kinds of crazy things can happen with computers, and definitely don't want to do too much. Like, you wouldn't want to mix on a computer that's like handling the real-time processing of your live mix and then record to that same computer at the same time. I mean, if you had a supercomputer, you could do that, but it's nice to not use up any extra processing or disk space or CPU power on recording, because we've got the standalone box. It's a 2-rack unit device that sits in the rack, and I just press record and it goes. And we've had this thing for a number of years. We've probably had it for 6 or 7 years now. It might be a little high, maybe 5 years. But we've never had an issue with it. And then today, at like 55 minutes in, it was during communion, so it was at the very, very end of the service anyway. But the recorder just spit out the CD and said record error. So not exactly sure what happened there. I can't think of any big events that audio events. Just during communion, nothing too crazy. It usually can record up to 79 minutes or 80 minutes of audio, and it was only at about 55, so it's not like the disc was full. That would be something different. So I'm not sure why that happened, but then that was in the 8 o'clock service. At the 10:45, we used the same exact setup and did everything equally, and we did not have that problem. So not sure what happened with that record error, but that is my live sound report for Sunday, March 1st, 2015. Hope you found this information helpful. I know it's going to be helpful for me to go back and just remember everything that happened today. Thank you for watching this episode of the Volunteer Tech Vlog. I will see you in the next video. Oh, and I'm going to post, I'll post a video of the error message too, because I took a short little video, had my camera with me, took a short little video of what exactly that Tascam error message looked like. Alright, thanks guys, have a great day.